Welcome everyone to our newest video. We're the Dimitrov-Boulay piano duo. My name is Dimitri Dimitrov.
And my name is Elvira Boulay.
And today we thought actually Elvira wanted to do something different for you. She wanted, actually you can tell them what you wanted.
I wanted actually to give a harmonic analysis.
And what we mean by analysis, harmonic analysis, you know that you have the right hand, the melodic line of this piece. Actually, we're going to do this piece. It's a very popular piece, and you have the right hand. You can analyze actually a piece in two different ways. You can analyze a piece in the way that it's composed melodically. You can see the different motives. You can see the combination of motives, how many bars per motive, then how many bars form like a long sentence. And so you can analyze a piece from a melodic point of view, but also from a harmonic point of view. And the harmonic would simply mean that you take the chords and you check what kind of chords they are and how they relate to each other. Now, if you are not familiar with chords, you can let us know and we can talk more about that. But in this video, we're not going to explain what the chords are exactly.
No, we're going to assume you have a basic understanding of chords, and if you want a video more about chords, just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we're just going to show you how the chords are structured here in this piece, what combination Chopin, yeah, what combination Chopin uses. And so let's get started. It could help you, this kind of analyzing could help you understand a little bit better what the chords are, and maybe even memorizing the piece. That could help.
It could help also with your improvisation skills and your composing skills if you are interested in these kinds of things. Basically, you're just kind of understanding what building blocks he used to build the piece.
Yeah, it's not going to make you play better. You have to understand that knowing theory is great, but it doesn't have a lot to do with how exactly you're going to play. Perhaps in the sense that you memorize the piece a little bit better and you can find your way through the piece. Maybe in that sense, it can help.
Like maybe in a broad sense, it would help, like in a very long-term effect, helping the understanding of music. But in the skills, of course, theory and practice, in that sense, it's like sport. Music is like sport. Yeah, theory isn't gonna help you sport better.
Anyway, I think there are a lot of people out there who actually love the theory behind music, and we thought we'd just give you a little example. We're not going to do the whole piece, just a little section of this piece, so let's get started. Okay, so one of the first things that you have to know before you play a piece that could be actually very useful, even before you start analyzing, is what key we're in. Like, are we in C major, A minor, G major? You know, there are a lot of different keys, and it's good for you to know that, which key, because otherwise you wouldn't know what the chords are, or how they relate to each other. The best way to find the key you're in is, actually, there are several ways. One is you can listen. Are you in major or in minor? When I play this, does it sound like a minor key, or does it sound like... That's a major, right? You immediately, when you start playing, you can feel that it's in a minor key. That's one. But now, what kind of a minor key? The next thing you can look at...
Yeah, if you're like, oh my god, I can't actually hear if it's major or minor, which, you know, it happens, don't worry about it. There's other ways, so don't worry. You look at... you don't look at the title of the piece, because that kind of gives it away. But you look at the... and that's not always the case, you know, it's not always written. You look at the key signature. So in this case, we have... Because that narrows down your choices, you know. And in this case, we have no sharps or flats, which means we have only two choices, because there are only two scales that have no sharps or flats, and that's C major and A minor.
G major. No?
Don't listen to him. C major and A minor. So we already concluded we're in A minor.
There is one more, but she's not telling you.
There isn't one more.
No?
No.
Oh, sorry.
He's confusing you on purpose. There's only two choices.
Two choices.
And if you are not able to hear if you're a major or minor, it's not a problem.
You should give up.
Because you just look at the last note. You know, the last note is almost always, 99% of the time, going to be...
The last note of the piece.
The last note of the piece is going to be in the tonality you're in.
And most likely the last bar, let's say it like this, because sometimes you have several notes of the last bar. Look at the last bar, that will be an indication. And the beginning of the piece. Sometimes the beginning can be a little bit different. It can actually start in a different key, but very often it ends in the key the piece is in. But most likely beginning and end, that's a good rule to follow. And also listen if it's a major or minor. So in this case, we're in A minor. And let's start with analyzing actually the first bar. We're going to analyze the left hand because that's where the harmony is. And so if you look, you have a bass note, and that's an A. That can be already an indication what kind of a chord is going to be. Is it going to be a tonic, the first scale degree in A minor, which is this chord, built on the note A, which is the first step in A minor. And then you have also a chord, which makes everything much easier. Then you already know that the first chord is actually the tonic, the first scale degree, the first step in A minor, which is, we write what?
We write a 1. So in general, this way of analyzing is my favorite. I used to analyze just a long time ago, just in chords. I used to write just A minor, but it is much nicer to actually analyze using these numbers, because you see better how they relate to each other. So A minor chord, an A minor chord, when you're in the tonality A minor, is number 1. It's the tonic. It's where everything wants to go to, where everything comes from, and where everything wants to go back to.
The next thing that is perhaps useful to know is what the chord, in what position it is. Is it in root position, first inversion, or second inversion? I don't know if you're familiar with this. We're not going to get into this in this video, otherwise the video will be huge. This is a root position. So, because look, it's going to sound very different if it's not in root position. This is the root position. What if it sounds like this? Or so you see, the composer chooses in this sense a specific sound.
And if you didn't realize, this was all actually the same chord in a different inversion.
This is it. You can see it also from the camera above actually. This is the root position, first inversion, second inversion. He chooses root position. It's a matter of taste. Who are we to argue what Chopin should write or not write? That's the first chord. So you know we're in A minor. The first chord is A minor root position, first scale degree. Second bar. How do you find the second bar, the chord of the second bar? As you can see, the root position has only thirds in between. You probably know that. Some of you know that. But the second chord, you have a D. So we might assume, we don't know yet, but we assume that the chord will be built on the note D. The D is the fourth step or fourth scale degree in A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have chord built on the D, which is in its root position this chord. Right? So, but if you look at the chord after the bass note, the chord, actually the bottom note of the chord is the note A. So what does that mean?
It means that it's not root position, it's an inversion.
Which inversion?
It's the second inversion.
Second inversion, exactly. He chooses to have an inversion. Now, for you, what's perhaps the most important here to know is that you are in a D minor, or the fourth step in A minor. That's what we are writing here, that you know it's the fourth step. So let's see what happens after the subdominant or the fourth scale degree in A minor.
Which was the D minor chord. If you're still thinking in chords, it's the D minor chord.
What are we going to do next? We're going to see the bass note again, and that's G. And that's very interesting. The G is the seventh step in A minor. Exactly, the seventh note in A minor. So what I'm assuming he's going to do here, he's going to put a dominant seventh chord. And that's exactly the case. Dominant seventh chord actually has 4 notes. It doesn't have 3. If you look in this case, this is the chord, this is the dominant seventh chord. We just build it from the notes in this bar, right? In this bar, we just take all the notes and we build a chord. Now you would say, but you said that there are 4 notes. Well, there are. It's just that the D is skipped because he omits the D because it's in the right hand.
It is in the right hand, yeah.
Exactly. And the reason that he puts this dominant 7th chord, we're just going to write 7, right? The reason that he puts the dominant 7th chord is the way the dominant 7th chord pushes for the next bar. And you're going to see he's moving to C major. And that's the reason that he places this chord. There's another option actually here I wanted to tell them. Mm-hmm. When you know how chords relate to each other, he could very easily, the composer, he does this. then dominant 7th. But the composer can also go to dominant chords, dominant on the 5th scale degree. Look how this is going to sound. But if he did that, if Chopin chose to go with a dominant 5th on the 5th scale degree,
he would have to go back to A minor.
To
he
A
would
minor.
have to go back to the tonic. I think the dominant is almost always followed by the tonic. For example, what is a very common, and we call it a cadence, that's the order in which the chords are 1, 4, 5, 1. But Chopin does something different, of course. 1, 4, 7, and let's see where he's going now after the
3.
7. Well, don't give it away.
Sorry. I thought it was a question.
Well, we're
I want.
find the answer. Let's go find the answer. Let's look at the next bar. Why is it 3? Let's check it.
You look at the bass note. It's a C. So we assume the chord is built on C. And then you see that it's an inversion. There are no only thirds between the notes. We have 1/4 and then we have a third, which means that we have a second inversion of a C major chord, and that's why we are going to write 3 here. And you want to
So if this goes too fast for you, what I used to do is I just used to take a sheet of note paper, like with note lines, and I used to just collect all the notes. So if it goes too fast and you can't immediately see that that's a C chord, that's all right. Just collect all the notes, write them down. So you write down C, G, and E.
Very good.
You write them down and you try to make, thirds stacked on each other. You just try to make a root position out of that from the notes that you collected.
That's a good idea.
And that's how I used to do it. So if it goes too fast for you, that's absolutely what you can do yourself.
I think this will be enough for today's video because I don't want that we overwhelm you with information, especially those of you who are not familiar with this. Perhaps already this is quite difficult. What we want you to remember from this video is that in general, in every bar, there is a chord, right? Especially in this piece and every other piece, even if you don't see chords written, there is actually a chord behind the melody. Otherwise, the melodies will be very empty. You wouldn't hear anything else. You would just hear... It's beautiful melody, but when you add the chord, the harmonization, everything becomes really full. And so what we want you to remember is that you can do this further with this piece or the pieces that you're playing. Better start analyzing simpler pieces. Don't analyze something really complicated. Take all the notes of the bar you're analyzing, of the left hand especially, and try to form a chord and see how that sounds. Then when you get all the notes and you put them together and you form a chord, try to build this chord in thirds. In thirds, why? Because then you will know the root position of that chord, which will help you determine on what scale the chord is built. The first note of the chord will be always the note that you look for. That's going to be an indication which step that note is in the key you're playing. So in this case, like bar number, let's say the last bar, one last example, last bar of this system, the bass is A, then you get all the other notes, and then you build A, C, E. Those are only thirds in between, and then the bass note is going to indicate that you are on the first step in A minor, which is the tonic, and then you write 1. If you have questions, you can always ask us. We'll actually make more videos about this so we can explain things further. Yeah. Also with other pieces that actually you don't have chords in the left hand, and then it's very tricky. How do you decide what chords there are?
Yeah, that's very nice. I mean, as you see, it's also fun to do. It's something different to be busy with music, and I'd like to give you as a goodbye, as a parting gift, some exercises actually to do. I think it's nice if you finish analyzing yourself until bar 16.
That's until here, right?
Yeah, and I think it's what we did in this video is absolutely possible for you to finish. And I'm not going to tell you why, but I promise you, it's absolutely possible for you to finish this until bar 16.
And another thing that you can do, I was thinking how to memorize the piece is very easy. Take the chords separately and just play chords.
the final exercise that you can do, and I think it's really fun and it's really good for your musical development, is to take actually these chords and improvise. So instead of, playing the waltz as it's written, you can play the beginning, you can play the first bar as it's written, but after that, take the same chords, take the same harmonies, but make a different melody, and even play a different inversion. So make the same cadence, as we call it, the same order of chords. You have 1, 4, 7, 3, 1, but make your own improvisation.
Yeah, let's try. For example, right? You just follow the chords, the same chords, and you're just making a melody, and you were going to hear what sounds right and what doesn't sound right. That's actually quite nice.
It's a really good exercise.
So anyway, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and if you have questions, you can ask us. And don't forget also to follow our Instagram.
If you want us to analyze a piece, let us know. Leave us a comment.
For us, recording this video was a great pleasure. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.